Hello, and welcome to the channel Geomancy Earth Astrology. My name is Ron. This channel is focused on the casting and interpreting of geomancy charts, with a main focus on the charts of nations, which is called mundane geomancy. Today I'll be casting and interpreting a chart on what will be the state of Russia for the month of July 2026. Now, for those who are not familiar with geomancy, there are 3 brief introductory videos on this channel that will help to orient you. They are: what is geomancy, geomancy and astrology, and mundane geomancy. And to just be clear, this video does not provide commentary on political or religious matters, nor does it provide advice on health or financial matters. I simply look at patterns that are produced randomly and interpret them using a combination of geomantic tradition, my own experience with geomancy, and my intuition. All videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. And for those who have subscribed to my channel, many thanks. That being said, let's get started. I will pause a moment to relax myself and get in touch with Anima Mundi, the soul of the world, before I shuffle the regular playing cards to produce the 4 mother figures of this reading. So this is what we have for this reading. The first mother is red, 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 which means 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot. 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot. The second mother figure is black, black, red, black. Just 2 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, 2 dots. 2 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, 2 dots. The third mother figure is black, black, red, red, which is 2 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, 1 dot. 2 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, 1 dot. And the fourth and final mother figure is black, black, red, red, which is 2 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, 1 dot. 2 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, 1 dot. So here we have the 4 mother figures of Via, Albus, Fortuna Major, and Fortuna Major. From these, I'll produce the whole shield chart as well as the whole house chart in high speed. And if you're not familiar with this process, you may want to watch my video on what is geomancy. All right, let's take a look at the charts and see what it has to say about Russia for the month of July. So for the shield chart, we have the first mother, Via, the second mother, Albus, the third mother, Fortuna Major, and the fourth mother, Fortuna Major. The first daughter is Laetitia, the second daughter is Laetitia, the third daughter is Via, and the fourth daughter is Puella. The first niece is Puer, the second niece is Populus, the third niece is Populus, and the fourth niece is Rubeus. Getting to the court, the right witness is Puer, the left witness is Rubeus, and the judge is Carcer. And the reconciler figure is Conjunctio. So we can see that there's a fair number of figures in this chart, but there are some that are missing. So see who's here and how many times these particular figures appear. So we have Puer appears twice, here and here. We have Albus appears once, here. We have Populus appears twice, here and here. Fortuna Major appears twice, here and here. Puella appears once, here. Rubeus appears twice, here and here. Cursor appears once, here. Letitia appears twice, here and here. And Via appears twice, here and here. So there's no figure that appears more than twice. There's quite a few which do appear twice, and a few which appear once. Now the figures which do not appear in this chart for this particular situation, which means that their energies are not present in the Russian situation for July, include Amisio, Conjunctio, Acquisitio, Tristitia, Cauda Draconis, Caput Draconis, and Fortuna Minor. So there are 9 figures which appear and 7 which do not figure in this particular chart. And looking through an astrological lens, what sort of planetary energies are present in this chart? There's 2 planets which are the most dominant in terms of number of times their figures appear, and that is Mars appears 4 times, twice through Puer, here and here, and twice through Rubeus, here and here. The other planet which appears quite a lot is the Moon, with 4 figures, Via, here and here, and Populus, here and here. We also have a couple of figures of the Sun, Fortuna Major, here and here, and a couple figures of Jupiter, which are Letitia, here and here. Saturn, we get 1 figure, Cursor, and Venus, we get 1 figure, Puella, and Mercury, we get 1 figure, Albus, here. So again, it's Mars and Moon energies which are most prominent in this particular chart, and that means that there's a lot of energy that may not be well regulated, shall we say, right? The Moon is very much associated with the change, the tides, things like that, ebbing and flowing, and Mars is very much a dynamic energy which can sometimes be put to good use under the right circumstances, but can also be destructive. So it's something to watch out for. Now, if we look at the shield charts court, what do we see? Again, the right witness, which represents the recent past of Russia, so sort of what Russia brings to the month of July, brings to the situation, is Puer, which is a figure of Mars. This indicates to me a recent past of anger, impatience, disciplined aggression. Certainly the war with Ukraine, and some people say also Europe or NATO, has been going on for a long time. There have been recent attacks on civilian infrastructure as well as death of civilians in Russia, and that could have the people quite upset. And so that's what makes me think that perhaps that's what's being communicated here in terms of the recent past, what the Russian people are bringing to the month. They're upset, they're concerned, but so far things have been somewhat controlled. The left witness, which represents events which happen to Russia, which is beyond the Russians' control, it's something that happens to them, is the figure Rubeus, which is another figure of Mars. And this is a very dark, scary, unregulated aspect of Mars. So seeing that as a left witness, is a bad omen. It means that events could bring strong passions to the Russian people, and it can also mean danger as well as undisciplined aggression. Rubeus is out of control, so it is rather concerning. Now, the interesting thing about combining these two figures to create the judge figure is you get the Saturn figure Carcer as a combination. Now, Carcer is, in most circumstances where you're looking for favorable things, not a good figure to have, just like Puer and Rubeus tend to be on the unfavorable side. So when you get these two unfavorable witnesses producing an already generally unfavorable judge figure, it's something to be aware of and concerning. Now, thing is that Carcer is a figure of looking inward, not being active. It's more introspective. So I'd say that July will actually be a month of restraint, self-control, and introversion. So although horrible things may be happening to Russia during the month of July, or very unfavorable things, we can say for sure, concerning things, with the self-control of Puer, they're able to hold it together, figure things out, and not lash out or react rashly. It's a very patient figure. It's a very logical figure, you can say as well. It bides its time. So this is a 30,000 foot level, very high level. Things do not look good for Russia for the month of July, but we'll see what the house chart has to say on that. Now, the reconciler figure, which is a longer term figure, it's sort of when the Russians look back at the month of July, what will they think of it? It's actually the opposite to Carcer, because it's a combination of Carcer with the first mother figure, which turns everything to its opposite. So actually get conjunctio. So what this tells me is that Russians will look back to July and see it as a month of new influences, as well as expression. So quite opposite to Carcer, but that's how people will see it. Perhaps things will come more to fruition as the months unfold and people look back to July and say, oh, when did something, a major change really happen? They'll go back to July and say, because of such and such that happened, that's when the seed was sown. That's what comes to my mind. We'll see in time whether that's true or not. So let's take a look at the house chart and see what that has to say. The first house, we have the figure Via, which is a house representing people's health and well-being in mundane geomancy. Via tends to be a sort of neutral figure. It's neither great nor bad, but it tends to be very active because all the elements are active. So you could say that the public are certainly not in a restful state of mind. It doesn't say they're angry, it doesn't say they're happy, it just says that there's a lot going on. They're restless, you can say that for sure. So there could be a major change in public mood, as well as in sort of unstable well-being. So neither horrible nor great, but just things are simmering. People are not chill in terms of mood. Onto the second house, we have the figure Albus, which is the one figure of Mercury in this chart. Now, this is the house of the treasury, banks, and trade. This is a good figure for this house because Mars is Mercury is associated with trade. That's one of the things which Mercury prevails over, and Albus does so in its own way. I would say it pertains to financial wisdom, being careful and smart in terms of dealing with treasury, banks, and trade. It's also good for gain and profit because of its mercurial associations. Mercury is a planet of business. And it's also a possibility for good starts. If there's any changes that are necessary in the financial area for Russia, July is a good month for that. Mercury doesn't start out with a bang. It's careful, but when things start under the influence of Albus, it tends to go well. The third house, we have the figure Fortuna Major. This is a figure of the Sun, and it is very favorable in third house matters, which in mundane geomancy deals with media, transportation, education system, and neighboring countries. Fortuna Major means success, but it's earned success. So effort needs to be put in. Things aren't going to fall in your lap. You have to actually work for it. But it means the work will pay off. So I'd say success in all of these avenues, and especially in terms of relations with neighbors, efforts that are made will pay off. The fourth house, which deals with mining, oil and gas, property market, and natural disasters in mundane geomancy, we again have Fortuna Major, the solar figure, which is good in this house. It could mean that efforts in the mineral sector will be successful. Perhaps there'll be new discoveries in oil and gas, minerals, things like that. So it is a favorable figure for even things associated with property, stability, profitability for those who are involved with property in Russia. On to the fifth house. We have the figure Laetitia. This is a figure of Jupiter, and it's one of the most favorable figures of the 16 to have. So, and the fifth house tends to be a fun and happy house in most things. It's associated with the arts, sports, birth rate, and speculation. So when you see Laetitia here, let the good times roll. This is a great figure. So a great pleasure in leisure activities, can be speculation boom. It's summertime in Russia, and I think the Russian people will have a good summer in terms of sports and leisure activities, food, fun, vacations, that sort of stuff. It's great. Sixth house, we also have Laetitia. This is the house associated with agriculture and food reserves, as well as the working class and military in mundane geomancy. Again, this is a good figure for this house. I would say that it's an exceptionally good agricultural season. When you see Laetitia, it means boom times. So for agriculture, I suspect that the situation will be very good for crops and for food reserves. It also shows improvement for the working class and maybe the military. Again, it's vacation time, so the working class will probably be having their vacation, and perhaps military will also either be strengthened and improved, or will be able to kick back a little bit, even though they're in the middle of a war with Ukraine. Seventh house, we have the figure Via. This is a lunar figure, and this is the house of public enemies, the marriage rate, and international relations. It's a mixed house in many ways, and with Via, which tends to be a neutral figure, I'd say the results are also mixed. It definitely means change in international relations. Not necessarily change for the better or for the worse, but there will be energy directed at making changes in Russia's relations, perhaps at the global stage, or at least with quite a few other countries, not just its neighbors. It is good potentially in terms of public enemies, because it shows that they are feeble. It's not a strong figure for enemies, so if they try anything, these are known enemies, not secret enemies, they'll not be particularly strong or successful in their efforts. The eighth house, we have the figure Puella. This is the one figure of Venus in this chart, and this is the house of the national debt, dangers to the public, and the death rate. Not good things. However, Puella is a generally favorable figure, especially in the short term. And so we're looking for, July is 1 month, it's not a long time, so Puella should prevail well over these things. So it's actually a good indication that the debts will not be an issue, nor should there be any major dangers to the public or increase in the death rate. I like to see this figure in this house. On to the ninth house, we have the figure Puer. This is a Mars figure, and Mars figures, especially including Puer, tend to be unfavorable in most indications of most houses. That's true for the 9th house for sure. So this is the house associated with laws, the shipping industry, religion, and universities in mundane geomancy. Mars is associated with conflict, danger, especially when I look at shipping. I'm thinking continued dangers to Russian shipping may be going on in the month of July. As well as for religion and educational, post-secondary education matters, it is not good. It indicates very unsettled conditions. The only thing it's particularly good for is military training. If people join the Russian military, and I understand there are thousands who are still volunteering, especially among the youth, that the training will go very well, for whatever that's worth. Onto the 10th house, we have the figure Populus. This is the house of the government and power, as well as the nation's prestige and influence. This is kind of a neutral figure. Populus tends to be neutral in most matters, and I'd say that it's probably neutral in this case as well. It's neither great nor bad. It shows stability, but there could be some troubles for the government. Not major troubles, but annoying little things that just try to put off, but you can't. That sort of situation. It's also something which could mean that the government is in touch with the masses. The Renaissance era geomancers mentioned that Populus indicates a crowd. So you can see a crowd being assembled before the leader. Not necessarily a protest, but it means that there is contact between the leadership and the people, which could be a positive thing, unless they get pissed off, in which case it may not be. We'll see what happens. We have Populus also in the 11th house, which in mundane geomancy deals with parliament, as well as the hopes of the nation, as well as friends. It's good for friendly nations. It shows amity and concord and support, so it's good that way. But in general, I'd say this is another sort of neutral figure for this house. I'd say no major change to the current situation with Parliament. It may be sort of dull time, perhaps they're in recession, or rather in recess, summer recess during the month of July, in which case Populus would make perfect sense. Maybe that's true also for the leadership, perhaps. The Russian government as well as Parliament sort of knocks off in July. I don't know that much about Russia, so it's a guess. But if that's the case, Populus makes perfect sense as a figure. In terms of hopes, it's kind of a weak figure, but it doesn't show opposition. So hopes of the nation may be achieved, but in a more sort of natural flow, because it's a lunar figure, Populus, and it is associated with things of a lunar nature, right? So it could mean that things will flow in a positive way. Now onto the 12th house, we have the figure Rubeus, which is one of the worst of the 16 figures to have. And it is in a troublesome house. Of the 12th house is not great things, although it is associated with places that people are held, such as in hospitals and prisons. It's also the welfare state. It's also secret movements, which may mean harm to Russia as a nation. Rubeus is unrestrained passion, it is violence, it is aggression, it is nasty. And so this is a bad combination, to be honest. It shows dangers to institutions if possible. One may recall that I think in June there were Ukrainian drones that attacked schools in Russia. Perhaps there'll be more of that, attacks on schools and hospitals. That's what Rubeus could indicate. Violence, death, and scary things happening for government institutions like that. It could also mean that secret movements strike out. So Russia has its known enemies, but there could also be secret movements within Russia that become active and may cause harm. So there's the 12th house reading. Let's go through what figures duplicate, because sometimes there are connections. And so it's always worthwhile trying to read that and see if that is indeed the case. So first of all, we have Via in the 1st house and the 7th house. What could that mean? Could mean that the Russian public is focused on international relations and perhaps on public enemies. That is where their attention will be drawn. We have Fortuna Major in the 3rd and 4th houses. It could mean that oil and gas shipments with neighbors work well. That's what comes to my mind. It's natural resources, things from the earth, and neighbors kind of goes together. Transportation also within national borders of minerals may also work very well during the month. We have Letitia in the 5th and 6th houses. What could this mean? Well, it could mean just the working class are on vacation. Sometimes things are simple and straightforward, so that's the way I'm putting it together. The 5th house is that dealing with enjoyments, entertainment, buying pleasant things like clothes and going out to eat and drink and things like that. So those are sort of summer type activities. So that's what I'm seeing, that the working class is having their summer vacation. Next we have Puer, which is in the 9th house, as well as the right witness. You may recall that the court is quite unfavorable, whereas most of the indications I've described in the house chart are favorable, right? There's only a few bad ones, which tend to be the 9th house and 12th house. Others are kind of neutral, mixed, or actually really, really good. So this is where it's important to see links, especially when a figure that's in the court appears elsewhere in the chart. That is quite likely the source of that particular indicator, where it's coming from. So this means to me that the recent past of attacks on Russian vessels, which has been going on in their shipments, there's been all sorts of problems going on, that could be what's affecting Russia's mood as it goes into the month of July. We have Populace in the 10th and 11th houses. Could mean that the government and parliament are in sync. The president and his cabinet, as well as the elected parliament, are on the same page with things. It could also mean that the government, as well as parliament, are in touch with the nation's hopes, which is a good thing. Finally, we have Rubeus in the 12th house and is the left witness. Again, this is the only other really bad figure, and it's associated with the left witness, which means to me that the main events that will be happening to Russia will be tied to dangers to institutions or secret movements, or perhaps both. That is where the unfortunate things that happen, the dangers that may be coming to Russia, are associated with the 12th house and affect things of the 12th house. So lastly, we would like to look at how time will unfold in July, and so we rely on the cardines, the 1st, 10th, 7th, and 4th houses, going from beginning to end. And so what we see is Via in the 1st house, Populace in the 10th, Via in the 7th, and Fortuna Major in the 4th. And it's always nice to see a good figure in the 4th house, because that's sort of the wrapping the bow on the Christmas present. And so what we see is possible changes, uncertainty, and upsets at the beginning of the month. Then as we get to the middle of the month, things will stabilize, things will be calm, there shouldn't be a big deal. But again, this is a lunar figure, this is also a lunar figure, Via and Populace. Again, we get onto the 3rd lunar figure, which is Via, which is getting close to the end of the month. Things could shake up again. Major changes may be happening. So a calm middle of the month, but again, sort of change or uncertainty in the beginning and near the end. But as the month wraps up, we have Fortuna Major, which means that efforts that are made during the month will pay off. Could also be efforts that are made previous to the month, but the good efforts will pay off, like taking care of your garden, you'll have a good harvest, like that. So successful efforts is what we see here. So that sums it up in terms of what's in store for Russia. So again, at the high level, it does not look good. Hasn't been pleasant in the recent past. Things can be kind of scary, and people have to be sort of constrained about that. But when we look house by house, most things will be great. It's just the 9th and the 12th houses which ring alarms to me. Everything else will be okay to good. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you found this video to be informative. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, share, and leave a comment. Until next time, take care.